a little bit more of it. What is development? Now, development in the good old days was just, oh, well, we'll develop the game and get some sponsors and get some more players into the game. Okay, we are in a very, very competitive sport environment. We're all aware of that. So we have to break down development, put it into some silos, make sure they're interconnected, but put them into some silos and then work at each one of them and improve each one of those silos. Look at the top one there at 12 o'clock is participation, which is we just want players coming to our game, enjoying it, developing as players, developing as people, and they become good citizens in the community. Talent development refers to basically advancing our players' skills so that they become talented players at the upper levels. Not all players want to go there. They might want to just stay at participant recreation. Competition development, that's an extension. We've talked about that, was mentioned this morning. We've got to improve our competition. Independent Commission will come in and sharpen up the senior end. Let's hope that trickles down. Some of you had questions to the Independent Commission people this morning. Then we go to education and training. That's what you people do. Educate your people under your guard, under your direction. Officials, coaches, sports trainers, administrators, etc. Community development, a huge part of our game. Okay, that's all part of development. So if we have those silos there, we're going to look at each one and see if we can improve each one. So basically we're looking at the participation silo, which is the one right up at, and this one, take a little bit of explain. If we look at the top left and the bottom left, where is our client base? Our client base primarily is the schools. All kids go to school, okay? That's where your captive audience is. So we want them to engage in some fashion with rugby league. And with the recreation programs there, they come in and they sample. They might do a bit of league tag. They might do something that, backyard league, for example. Okay, so they sample. Other ways of sampling, and Bannon King just mentioned this, there's research going into sampling by virtual activities. You know, the virtual games that kids play now, and there's some evidence, and we're talking generation Ys and Zs for the sake of a label. What does it mean in the long run? Very little. But for the sake of a label, these kids are exposed. This is what they do. So if we're going to introduce our game to kids, perhaps we've got to start investigating virtual activities in rugby league. There'd be a few around, but we don't have a program. Certainly not what I'm aware of. Okay, if we go down the bottom there, traditional programs, the one on the bottom left. Traditional programs are those that are currently in operation in clubs and schools. Okay, your mini and mod, junior, international. Okay, so there's your client base. Eventually they converge. At around about the age of 13 to 15, they converge, and this is the investment period, they call it, investment in the sport of rugby league, in our sport. Now, this is theory, and when does our junior international start? After 12 years, isn't it? So we're on track. Peter Corcoran was right back in 1982. We're on track there. It's the first selection period for kids to actually say, I like this game of rugby league, I want to keep going with it. Or it could be, this game of rugby league is pretty tough, and it is a tough game. I like playing it, perhaps I'll just stay with league tag, for example. I just want to be a recreational type person rather than an aspirational type person. Okay, so we look up the top on the right, we've got the recreational pathways, that's league tag, we've got masters, we've got women's rugby league, there's so many different forms of our game that is available to our clients. Then, down the bottom, we've got our traditional programs, which are basically your competitive opportunities, your competitive programs for our players. And those, they can stay on with that and play senior footy in the local A-grade competition, or perhaps they become more aspirational and they then end up going into the high performance programs and get selected for academies and go into scholarship systems and eventually go up the train and play in the state cups or NRL. If they've got that talent to go to. And then eventually they become professional, semi-professional players. So as you can see, the pathway is non-linear. Going back 10 years ago, if I was to present a slide, I'd probably just have it in a straight line and say down the bottom we've got our clients, which are club people and schools people, and just have arrows in a straight line and just go up and would be an NRL person. If we had that in operation right now, the likes of soccer would go straight past us. And I mentioned soccer. Soccer have a small-sided games program. You people will be aware of that's probably running in your sporting community, and you're very much aware of how they go about it. They start 3-a-side, then 4-a-side. It's very, very unstructured, There's a lot of fun, a lot of activity, it's safe, all those sorts of things. Doesn't that beg the question of rugby league to have a look at what we're doing as well, without radically changing our game, because we still want opportunities for the aspirational player at the senior level. So that's just a bit of background to where we've come from. In summary, it started as a research board activity. It got too big for us. Then we thought, well, let's expand this, hand it over to the ARL development, and ARL development then has continued on with it. And as I say, it's shown that not all the information has got through to you people through no fault in the existing group here at the QRL. But we hope then that by the end of this session you have a bit more information and you can give us feedback, because this feedback is vital to us.